This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is going on, everyone? Great to have you with us. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson with you, soon to be joined by my man, Michael Remis. Lots to get to today after the Jets were officially eliminated from playoff contention last night in the 80th game of the NHL regular season. It was, however, the debut in the National Hockey League of Braden Yager. We saw Nikita Chibrikov get back into the lineup as well. The Jets now with 2 games left on the season. Their final road game is tonight in Utah against the playoff-bound Mammoth. And then they'll head back to the Peg for one more game, appreciating the fans on Thursday with Fan Appreciation Night. Should be a fun one. Obviously, this was pretty much expected after the weekend, and depending on where you were on the realistic chance of the Jets running the table through the final 7 games, it kind of seemed like this was inevitable for a while. And listen, as you know, I've said a number of times, we're going to get into, the ups and downs of this season. But it is funny today. I'm going to be honest with you. Disappointed, yes. But I think like most of you, we sort of knew it was coming. To be frank, I had sort of come to peace with the fact that this was a lost season, when the team was 32nd overall into the new year. Credit to them for playing hard and getting back into the mix. But there was also a concern of, if the team wasn't going to be off the playoffs, what's this really doing? I think it did a bunch of things. I mean, listen, it showed that the team still has a lot of character and has heart. They weren't quitting on the season. But at the same point, I mean, big picture, a high draft pick could really help the Winnipeg Jets. They haven't had many over the last few years. This is not the organization that was nailing every one of their first picks in, 11 and 12 and 13 and 14. So to be able to have a higher pick if you're not going to make the playoffs is a positive thing. So, it's funny. I look at the title on today's YouTube broadcast, and it's Winnipeg Jets eliminated from playoff contention. What went wrong? Listen, that what went wrong is going to be discussed ad nauseum probably for the next couple of weeks as we go through, as we've said before, every level, decisions that were made, players' performance, coaching, all of that. But I will be frank with you. Coming out of last night, I'm in a great mood. Like, last night was actually a great night for the Winnipeg Jets. Awesome to see Braden Yager make his debut. Winning that game would have been detrimental to their draft pick. I don't think a lot of people expected a Jets team that was, without a bunch of regulars, playing a bunch of kids, including one in their first game, and maybe go in and win. And I'll tell you what, having a guy like Brad Lambert playing second line against a real deal team like Vegas, I think is, maybe a bit of a hard lesson as to how difficult it will be to play at that level. And, that gives him something to think about and work towards over the course of the offseason. But the out-of-town scoreboard last night was beautiful. The Blues win, the Panthers win, the Sharks win. And a lot of those teams that the Jets had passed over the last couple of weeks as they tried to pull themselves back into making the playoffs, they're right back to sort of where they were before in the 7 hole. And listen, if you can finish 7th as opposed to 10th in the reverse standings, that is important when it comes to the draft lottery. First off, just obviously your chances are much better of getting the number 1 or 2 pick. But even if that doesn't happen, the worst case scenario, if you finish in the 7th spot, is that you can only move back 2 spots. And that's assuming that teams 8 or higher, win the lottery, which is very unlikely. So these next couple games, it's going to be about some milestones, which we got last night, which was great. Gabriel Velarde, congratulations on 30. And we'll get into Mark Scheifele's season. I mean, incredible to hit triple digits for the first time at this age. I believe the oldest player ever to get 100 for the first time. So there was some positives last night, but we don't have to worry about the wins and losses anymore. In fact, 2 more losses probably would be the best thing for the organization, but go out there, play hard. Let's see some of the young guys play, and we move on to the offseason. We're going to talk about it with Mike McIntyre. Connor's going to join us a little later on. And we'll also discuss the teams that will be competing in the Stanley Cup tournament with Dave Pagnotta coming up in just a few minutes. Hey, it is fight week here in Winnipeg. And just before we bring in Reem, of course, want to thank our sponsors and our great partners at CoolBet. Hit up the boys for a couple of sweet seats for fight night on Saturday at Canada Life Center. And what we're going to be doing is running a little promo for all you cool bettors out there. I know a lot of people will be looking to make bets for the playoffs right now, and many of you will also want to get a few wagers in on the Scraps downtown Winnipeg on Saturday. What you're going to want to do is any bets you make at CoolBet, $10 or more, for every $10, you're going to get an entry. And for every $10 on the fights on Saturday, you'll get double entries. Screen cap your bets and email them to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. And coming up on Friday, we will be giving away a really nice pair of seats to one of our cool bettors that's getting in on the playoffs and, of course, on the fights on Saturday. So, again, it's contest@winnipegsportstalk.com to send those in. We'll fire out a couple social posts as well, and good luck to all of you. Also want to thank the rest of our sponsors, of course, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Manitoba Building Trades and the Manitoba Federation of Labor, Uptown Alley, Rowley's Transfer, St. Mattel Dental Center, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, and of course we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Shout out to all you podcast listeners. Welcome to everybody in chat, and welcome to you, Michael Remis. What's going on?
So what's going on? You see the snow this morning out there, Huss? If only the Jets had clinched a playoff spot yesterday instead of being eliminated, how many jokes would we be making about a whiteout coming after seeing the snow? But instead,
there was snow this morning?
You didn't see? Oh man, it was really coming down, and instead I'm like, oh, winter is still here. I think it melted pretty quickly, but how fitting would it have been have the Jets clinch yesterday instead of the Kings and to have that snow? But no, we are here talking about finally the Jets, playoff contention window is over. Looking towards next season, looking towards the final 2 games. Extremely, extremely disappointing season, and we'll be talking about it all. I mean, until probably for a while, we'll be talking about the anniversary 15th Winnipeg Jets season.
Well, listen, I've got a theory on anniversary seasons as well, which I'll get to. But it's funny that you say it was sort of snowing this morning, because I just went outside, and when I looked out on the Assiniboine yesterday, it was all tons of ice and everything. And today it's all gone. The river's flowing. It seems like most of the ice is melted. I know it's going to be, I think, pretty warm today. And if that is the case, that means we're going to be, it just sort of feels like it's playoff weather right now, or at least we're getting towards spring. So I can't wait for Breezy Bend to open. Unfortunately, I was hoping that the Jets wouldn't be booking tee times right now. They'd be getting ready for one of their Western Conference opponents, but that isn't the case. But listen, a little bit of closure over the course of the next few days. It will be a very, very interesting end of season wrap up, though. And that is, I think, when we'll really start to sort of dive into, how this could have been avoided, what mistakes you hope will not be made again, what can be learned from this year, and as well as focusing in on some pretty incredible individual seasons that, fortunately, are somewhat wasted by the overall team performance. But we're getting ready for the playoffs. We pretty much know who's in and who's out right now. Still need to figure out who's playing who over the next couple days. And for the Winnipeg Jets, well, more for Winnipeg Jet fans and Winnipeg Jet management, we'll see if things can break in their favor on that out-of-town scoreboard and in their own results maintain the 7th spot going into the draft lottery, and then we count down to, what is it, May 5th, that we find out how things are going to shake out for the first round in Buffalo?
Yeah, May 5th. That is the day after the 1-year anniversary of the Manitoba Miracle. And what another Manitoba Miracle would it be if the Winnipeg Jets were
Now we're talking.
Yeah,
we're talking.
There. I'll give credit to Connor. He used that line in our post-game last night after I mentioned the anniversary. But yeah, what another Manitoba Miracle it would be if they were to finish first or second and get a huge boost to the lineup. And I think we said like January, as you mentioned, when they were on last, it seemed like playoffs were a very slim chance. They put out a good effort and sucked us along for the ride, and it was fun to have some. We didn't have like a month of meaningless games. We did have some fun ones in there for sure, but that 11-game losing streak really did them in. Tough to overcome, and it was, again, a very disappointing season. I'm curious to hear, what you hear from the organization as we do locker cleanup. But first, we got 2 more games here, including one tonight against Utah.
Yeah, right back at it. And listen, I had basically had Utah pegged in to wild card 1 for, I don't know, like 2 months. They're not home and cooled yet. The Kings are now just 1 point back of Utah.
Oh.
Both teams have 2 games left. If the Kings get an extra win over Utah, for instance, were the Jets to win tonight and LA to win their next game, LA would jump, and you know what could very well happen.
Oh.
It could be Edmonton, LA for the 5th straight season, because the Ducks have only 90 points as well, and they have not been playing particularly well. Now, they're playing a Minnesota team that's resting everybody tonight. We will get to that a little bit later on. Interesting slate of games tonight in the National Hockey League. But I expect, and this is great for people that are worried about the draft pick, because you know that the team's going to go out there and play their best. I mean, now, lost a lot of games trying all season long. So, especially when you add in some younger players, you would think that would be, a more difficult challenge. I assume Eric Comrie's going to go tonight. We'll have some confirmation on that a little bit later on. But when you look at this, like the Utah Mammoth need this game. Like the last thing they want to do is blow wild card 1 and then all of a sudden have to stay in the Central Division and go through Colorado. And then if you upset Colorado, the winner of Dallas and Minnesota. So there is a major, major incentive for the Kings to catch the Ducks or the Mammoth and avoid Colorado. And obviously for the Ducks to stay where they are, holding down that 3rd spot right now in the Pacific Division. So there is some interesting angles on this. We'll talk about this with Pagnotta when he comes up and joins us in a few minutes. But let's get to last night's game. First things first, we'll get to Mark Scheifele's milestone and Gabe Vilardi as well as Scott Arniel. But I got to tell you, I really like the insertion of Braden Yeager and Chibrikov into the lineup. I thought Yeager played a responsible 200-foot game. I mean, there wasn't a lot of offensive dynamics, but man, he went to the net hard. He was in some of those dirty areas, and I thought he showed a lot of the acumen on the defensive side of the game for his first game in the National Hockey League that I think bodes well for him. Now, you're going to have to be able to produce if you're going to be playing center, in the middle 6 in the National Hockey League long term, but for a first game, I thought it was nice, and I'll tell you what, we also saw some of what I think the organization liked so much early on last year in Nikita Chibrikov, in that he was really pissing the Vegas Golden Knights off, and that's not really something that the Jets have had for the last couple of years, somewhat of an agitator. So, listen, nice to see both of those guys in the lineup, and I thought they held up their end of the bargain for their first games in a long time for Chibrikov, and obviously his NHL debut for Yeager.
Really liked what you saw from Chibrikov. The hit on Braden McNabb, who's like not a small individual.
That was awesome.
Listed at 6'4", 215 pounds. Put him on his ass. And McNabb, I'm sure he's never been knocked down like that, because you're going after and cross-checking Chibrikov away from the play, and credit to him for drawing a penalty, and Barbashev comes in throwing gloved punches. What a play that was. And I did enjoy the interview that Chibrikov did with Dan Robertson in intermission, saying how hard it was, coming back from that knee injury, the work that he had to put in, and how, finally he's back at the NHL and playing like the way he did last season. So Chibrikov certainly made an impact. Jaeger, the hot lap, playing his first game. Nice to see his family there as well. Curious what kind of run he's going to get here over the next 2 games. He did play about 10 minutes yesterday. I think it's something to look forward to for the final 2 games of the year. The Jets, they're getting into Utah. We're not having a morning skate. We'll have to see if there's any lineup changes. I imagine it'll be pretty much the same, or maybe they start resting some more guys as they're now officially eliminated. We did see Florida's lineup yesterday. They're a team that's eliminated, addressing a lot of guys that we didn't know who they were. So, nice to see them do some call-ups. Again, something to watch here for the final 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could all of these call-ups recently have been emergency call-ups, so they still will have the opportunity to call up more players if they want. I mean, potentially one of the young goalies for the final game. I think that's in the mix right now. We'll get to that with Mike a little bit later on, but let's hear the aftermath from last night's game. Obviously, it became official at the end of the game last night that the Winnipeg Jets will not be returning to the playoffs. Here's head coach Scott Arniel on being eliminated from playoff contention.
It's a terrible feeling. We said at the All-Star break when we had our chance to have our little mini camp and kind of get ready for the stretch run, the 29 games. We wanted to put everything we could into it, and we went from 11 points down to 1 at one time, and it just it's a tough feeling. And I know the guys they're hurting. Everybody, we all want to be in the playoffs. That's what our job is and our role is, and when you get the reality of it, it sucks.
Pretty straight and frank and straightforward from Arnie. I mean, you knew that was coming. I'm sure he, especially after Saturday night, knew that that was going to be the reality. And to his point, listen, Scott Arniel or any of the players cared about the draft pick. In these final 27 games, I guess, since the line, they've made up a lot of ground. They got back into it, and they didn't quit in the seasons, and that's something that I think you can hang your hat on. Now, it's a long season, and all those losses earlier in November and in December and into January ended up really being their demise. But they made it to game 80, and as I mentioned, with some good fortune on the scoreboard, all those wins might not have damaged that draft slot too much, considering how tight it is and how the Jets have a couple tiebreakers. The last 2 games obviously weren't pretty. I would say Saturday far more than last night, but this one got a little out of hand as well. Pierce Scott Arniel just asked if they sort of ran out of gas and were on fumes the last 2 games.
The one the other night against Philly, we didn't have any of those through the stretch. That was 20 guys. It just fell out from underneath us. Tonight we're missing an awful lot of bodies. We're missing some key people. At the end of the day, that's a real good hockey team over there. Got to give Vegas an awful lot of credit. They didn't. First period actually wasn't too bad in the sense of, I know we didn't get a ton of chances, but we hung in there with them. The second period we just became a specialty teams event, and some guys obviously didn't get to play as much. Then obviously they showed their veteran presence in the third.
All right, so Scott Arniel on and that was one thing that happened, Reem. I mean, that second period, it seemed like it went about 10 minutes without really any 5-on-5, and Vegas was taking a bunch of penalties. I still have no idea how Chibrikov got a roughing penalty.
That's what I said. He hit McNabb and they went after him and he got a
3
penalty.
guys whacked him. Yeah,
that one was bizarre. Someone mentioned the Scheifele penalty for high sticking. Some people thought maybe it shouldn't have been a penalty. He didn't hit the puck, so it technically wasn't a follow through. It was a guy whacking another player in the face. They were tripping. It's funny, we talked about that Columbus game. That was like the fastest game ever. This game was one of the longer ones. It started the same time as the Kings game and the Oilers game. And those games were starting the third period, and the second period of this game hadn't even ended. So it was a bit of a strange one. Vegas, outshot Winnipeg heavily in the first period and just eventually, pulled away. Of course, Mark Stone against his hometown team with 1 goal, 2 assists, and Jack Eichel, a 4-point night for him. Certainly a tough one, Huss, for the Jets. But as Scott O'Neill mentioned, not exactly their regular lineup. I think there was some deflation on Saturday after, the Kings won in Edmonton. That was really it. And it was 2 points. It was either a Kings win or Jets loss. We're going to, put the nail in the coffin. And, well, it was inevitable that they were going to be mathematically eliminated at some point.
Yeah, exactly. It was inevitable. I mean, the scoreboards that I was watching was the St. Louis game, what was happening in the Florida and the Rangers, what was happening with the Sharks, and all of that broke the Jets' way. You mentioned Mark Stone. I got to give a tip of the hat to Stone. He hasn't been healthy all season long. He's managed to get into 59 games. Remis, he's got 73 points in 59 games.
Wow.
Still getting the job done. Marner he's just a shy of a point-a-game player. And obviously Jack Eichel was impactful last night. But Dorofeyev, 37 goals on the season. And the Vegas Golden Knights with 6 players with 23 or more goals right now. A pretty well-balanced team, and a team that I think, if healthy and they can get some goaltending, it will be a tough out in the playoffs. But listen, the team lost. It's whatever at this point. There were some personal milestones that we were looking for last night. Gabriel Velarde gets his 30th goal of the season, a career high. He's had a great season, whether he was on the top line, whether he was on the second line, brought it, stayed healthy. But the big one was Mark Scheifele getting 100 points and then 101 becoming, if you're into the quote-unquote franchise Jets Thrasher records, the franchise record. Obviously, with Winnipeg Jets, you've got Howard Chucks, Paul McLean, and Teemu Selanne that have more. But at least we won't be talking about Marian Hossa anymore on those ones. But Scott O'Neill was just asked about Mark Scheifele's season and the milestone of 100 points for the first time in his career.
It's impressive, what the year he's had, through all the ups and downs of our season. He's been one of the consistent guys right from the start of the year to today, and he's one of our leaders, and I'm real proud of him. He's to get that many points, that's special, and he's been there. I don't think he has a lot like Dale. There was not a lot of league recognition or sort of recognition around around the countries, and Mark's kind of been under the radar a lot that way, and I think him, KC, people are starting to recognize Josh Morrissey that we have. He's some elite players in Winnipeg.
All right, there's Scott O'Neill, and I will definitely second him on that. Unfortunately, the best time to remind everyone that you've got elite players is in the postseason, and these guys won't have an opportunity to do that this year. But through 80 games, played every game this season, 35 goals, 66 assists, 101 points on the season. He's tops in the 2.0 Thrashers era, Remo, but here's the all-time Winnipeg Jets points in a season leaders. The magical 76-goal Teemu Selanne season is at the top, and then the Dale Hawerchuk era, 5 seasons of 100 points or more. His incredible rookie campaign in 81-82 for 103, a 102, a 105, a 121, and of course that magical 84-85 season where he had 130 points. The guy riding shotgun with him that year, Paul McLean, also got 101 points. And then there's Mark Scheifele, 25-26 with 101. It'll be bittersweet for Scheif doing it in a season where the team was not able to produce. But for people that thought there was going to be a big drop-off, it is amazing. And you really do have to tip your hat to the way Scheif played and the way he produced this season.
Yeah, I think it's really disappointing to have this exceptional season where your top line plays every game and to have franchise record in points, the guy getting 100 points and, to be out of the playoffs. And I think it speaks to the gap between the top line and, the secondary scoring on the roster. You can't have, 2-3 guys doing it themselves every night. But credit to Mark Scheifele at age 33, getting better, having a career year, 101 points and counting. Incredible stuff. And you saw that he's elite, and you saw, him being top, 6 in the NHL in scoring, tied for 5th with Nick Suzuki right now. And Kyle Connor getting 90 points again. He's very consistent there. And shout out to Gabe Vilardi. Finally, we wondered if he would have a fully healthy season. Would he be able to put up, 30 goals? And what kind of season could he have? And he did it this year. So a bit of a bright spot there. And again, a disappointing season.
Yeah, we'll hear from Mark Scheifele on the milestone coming up a little bit later on. Mike McIntyre is going to join us. We'll have Connor on as well. We are going to get Dave Pagnotta's thoughts on the Jets missing the playoffs, as well as everything to look forward to next week. Pagnotta coming up next in just a minute as WST continues.
Hey, Bob, you hearing the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Spring into good times at Uptown Alley and eat, drink, and play at the most fun spot in the city. You'll enjoy 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, a state-of-the-art arcade, and good times playing laser tag as well. And in addition, Uptown Alley features incredible food and drink options at their bistro. Pop down to Uptown Alley with your group or make it a party. It's the best place in Winnipeg for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults, and an amazing spot for corporate events where you just simply pick your activities, any of your add-ons, what you'd like to eat, and the Uptown Alley staff takes care of everything else. For more information, go to uptownalley.ca, book a lane at 488-0000, or pop down and see him at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Got a move coming up? Lean on our friends and longtime sponsors at Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving and storage in Manitoba. Now into their 7th decade with over 60 years of experience, family owned and operated. Head over to their website at rollys.com to find out all about their services serving Winnipeg and southern Manitoba. In the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then simply let them know when you're moving, where you're moving to, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly and get you a great quote to get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now for over 60 years in Winnipeg. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more and request an estimate today on your next move at rollys.com. Has it been a minute since you've been to the dentist? If it is, our pal Doc Harry and the wonderful staff at St. Vital Dental Center would love to see you. They've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years, and have now moved into a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. They'll handle customers and clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. Dr. Terry and the gang can absolutely do it all. We'll do it with a smile on their face and make your smile look even better than it's ever been. Go to stvitaldental.ca online to make an appointment. Pop into St. Vital Dental, get that grill taken care of, and tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. All right, Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period, about to join us. This segment brought to you by our friends at your local Prairie Toyota dealers. It's Red Tag Days, and it's time to check out the Toyota Tacoma. Its standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Getting ready for a magical mystery tour through the playoffs. Our guy, Dave Pagnotta from the Fourth Period, joins us now. Dave, what's going on? How are you?
Good, buddy. Good. Yeah, just gearing up. Nope, no hockey, playoff hockey here either in Toronto. So I'm going to get my butt on the road, follow the Canadian teams in the first round by the looks of things. So still to be determined how that's all going to play out because we don't know the full schedule yet. But going to be a busy couple of months for this guy.
We'll dive into the playoffs in just a second, but we're kind of, it's official now. The Jets aren't returning to the playoffs. They eliminated in the 80th game of the season. Considering how bad the first half of the year was and where this team was in mid-January, 32nd overall, it was pretty valiant. They never quit. They kept going. They made an 11-point deficit, a 1-point deficit at 1 point, but it was a little too late. I mean, from outside the market, when you look at the Winnipeg Jets season, what do you make of a team that won the President's Trophy last year that now is making tea times?
Injuries played a big factor for them, especially on that back end, right? So being depleted at certain points of the season clearly affected them. That coupled with the lack of secondary scoring that was a pain in the butt for a good chunk of the year, they weren't able to find it. And Chevy tried and he looked around and explored, but, clear that the deficiencies in the roster and the lack of quality depth to make up for some of those injuries, played a factor. As you said, valiant effort, hell of a run down the stretch. Great job, Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, for really stepping it up even more offensively. But they need reinforcements. And if anything, it shows you for now what they've got on this team when healthy can do some damage. Excuse me, but they definitely need some extra punch in that lineup. And that's now going to be Chevy's task this summer in trying to fill some of those voids in order to get this team on track next season. They lost Ehlers, but they knew that was happening. We touched on that a number of times towards the end of last year. But again, not being able to replace it, not finding a 2C, not finding somebody to play with Cole Perfetti, and then shoring up the rest of the line on the other side, the other wing, that it hurt them. So again, you look at this team and you go, all right, healthy, we know what we've got. We can do some damage, but we have holes A, B, and C that we got to fill. We fill those this summer. Next season, we're back on track. And I think that's the mentality right now for this team. Yeah,
you know what I mean? We've had, a lot of conversations looking at Winnipeg, looking at Toronto. Two teams that had very high expectations, have been playoff teams for a number of years, both on the outside looking in. It seems to be a very different situation. I mean, this core that is signed, Hellebuck, Morrissey, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Gabriel Velarde, all who had strong seasons. I mean, that's a pretty nice starting point for any team in the National Hockey League. Elite goaltender, top number one defenseman, a guy that's sixth or tied for fifth in scoring right now, a 40-goal scorer. The Jets do have the pieces. What was so stark, I think, at times was how the team got older and slower. And to me, the biggest questions are all of those other spots. I mean, we've seen Brad Lambert join the club late in the season. Braden Yeager made his NHL debut last night. Elias Salmonson, who is injured right now and probably won't play the rest of the season, was a revelation when he came in. And the improvement, I mean, listen, a big question is around here, if Salmonson was playing from the start of the year and they weren't throwing Luke Shen out each and every night, how many more points would this team have in the standings? You can make an argument that it would be a few. So the big question is, though, I mean, the 2C, they traded for Paul Stastny. They traded for Kevin Hayes. I mean, this has been a hole that they have not been able to fill through free agency. Yep. And I think the scarcity of legitimate 2Cs around the league make that arguably the most difficult thing to add outside of a marquee franchise player.
Yeah, you're going to have to go fishing in the trade market. It's fairly simple from that perspective. I mean, the options aren't available in the free agent pool, so you've got to shift and you've got to look at how the trade market's going to unfold and see who you can get your hands on. You can play the what if game all you want. What if this player played instead of that guy? What if this guy had more minutes than that guy? What if this guy wasn't hurt and all that stuff? Doesn't matter. What you do is you take the positives. You go, okay, this is how well these guys did this season. Here's how they can be instituted into the lineup next year. We're going to be strong in these areas. Let's really push push for the other areas, because at the same time, it also gives you a better understanding of who some of your tradable assets are. If you got these pieces in these holes, or filling, guys in this hole, then all right, well, these other pieces might be movable. Like, we could package something up here and try to get, another winger for the second line. Try to get that 2C spot and fill that from a long-term side of things. Again, like, I think Chevy and the staff and management of the Jets this offseason are going to be looking for those pieces and being able to take some of these guys that you have that had success this season, or you could see having success after a sample size. Hey, perfect. Slot them in, and here are some guys that are quote-unquote expendable, because you have to fill those other holes. And you got to give to get, certainly, but this gives them a bit of a better understanding as to A, what they have on their roster, and then B, what assets could pique the interest of other teams, and make some of these acquisitions a little more palatable for some of the other teams, because they're not just going to give you a 2C just because they're having a good day. You got to cough up some assets to do it. I think that this season, by some of these, by seeing what assets are available to you, you can now utilize those pieces moving forward, either hold on to them or package them up to fill those holes. So this was a bit of a learning curve type of season and a one-off, for this club, but fill the holes. That's what they are. Go out there and do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that they're not going to be blowing it up in Winnipeg, and most of these players will be back next year, hopefully with different results. I'm not sure it's the same in Toronto. When do you think they'll have a GM, and how big of an overhaul will it be to the roster? And potentially, could you have one of their star players, i.e., their captain or Willie Nylander, not Maple Leafs next year as part of a massive rebuild?
Well, that's not what they want. It's not what management and that's not what ownership wants. So whoever comes in as GM, they have to come in with the mindset that appeases ownership, which is we're retooling, not rebuilding. I ran into Austin quickly after the game yesterday, and he's doing better. He's getting there. I think he understands the season went in the pooper, but the vibe that he showed, like, there seemed to be some optimism there for what's going to come moving forward. And to me, that shows that he still wants to be part of this. I think Nylander wants to be part of this too. Whoever comes in as GM, and they just started the interview process this week, by the way. They're going through those motions now. But Pelly mentioned, Keith Pelly, the president of MLSE, mentioned that by mid-May, that's the perfect scenario timeline for them to hire the new GM. Worst case, end of May, beginning of June. So you got about a month, give or take, 3 to 4 weeks, really, to find your guy, and that should be more than enough time in order to do that. It's probably a little bit too much time, but whatever, more than enough time, unless they're gearing up for interviews with guys in the playoffs, and some teams prefer to wait until their season's wrapped. But anyway, that being said, whoever comes in, it's a retool mindset, and there are pieces on this roster that were available that will continue to be available. Morgan Riley talked about it before the game yesterday. Like, he's thinking about it. It creeps in players' minds. They're thinking about their future, and could it be somewhere else? That's the first time he's really acknowledged that. And he was the subject of plenty of speculation this season. I expect him to be again in the summer with whoever the GM is. And you'll hear other things. Like, they have, I've said this all year, 4 top 6 forwards. If you believe Easton Cowan's going to make the jump to second line effectively, or first line, whatever it is, either way, in the top 6, okay, you filled a bit of a void there. You still have one big one to fill. And then you got to shore up other areas. You got to shore up the blue line and things like that. That's going to be tasked to the new GM. But there will be turnover. There will be change. I don't think it will be as astronomical. Look, unless Austin just wakes up and says, yeah, I changed my mind, I don't want to be here anymore, that'll constitute a rebuild. But until that day happens, and I don't anticipate that being anytime soon, and he will speak Thursday on Clean Out Day with the media, so we'll have some definitive clarity from him at that point. But unless something like that happens, it's retool, let's get back to the playoffs next season. That's the mindset in Toronto.
Dave, just before we leave the Leafs, I'm going to set out a scenario which is delicious probably to many Jet fans.
Oh, here we go.
So, like with what happened last night, the Sharks, Blues, and Panthers actually leapfrogged the Jets. So the Jets are right now 7th. Like if Vancouver is 1st in the draft rankings, they're 7th. The Leafs are number 5. And important to know that they have top 5 protection. Can you imagine if, say, the Winnipeg Jets were to get the 1st or 2nd pick, leapfrog in, and bump the Leafs to 6th and have the Boston Bruins on the clock picking that 6th overall selection coming out of the Carlo trade? It seems like the team has had like a Murphy's Law element to them all season long. It almost wouldn't be surprising if it went that way.
It would be very Leafy if something like that were to occur. If they end up getting top 5 and then getting bounced back because of the lottery, it would really shock nobody, especially in this market. This is a very something's gonna bite us in the butt kind of market mindset, and I could definitely see that being the case here. And like it would not be. It's comical, but it's almost like you have to laugh if you're a Leaf fan because you're expecting it. Like that's what these guys. That's what I grew up in Montreal. I never grew up a Leaf fan. My buddies are all Leaf fans here in Toronto. They're all talking to me going, yeah, we're gonna try, like 2 teams are gonna win the lottery. We're gonna end up with 7th pick, and it'll go to Boston, and that's what they're expecting. It would be pretty funny.
Well, May 5 will be a big day in Winnipeg and Toronto. That is for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It won't be in Ottawa, Montreal, and in Edmonton. 3 Canadian teams going to the playoffs. Dave, of those 3 teams, which do you think has the best chance to make some real noise in the playoffs? Who's Canada's best hope?
Oh, boy. Well, I've been on record a number of times saying I don't believe the Oilers are winning the Cup this year, and I maintain that. How far they go, I'm not sure yet. That's going to depend on who the opponent is. We know that, we know Tampa is playing Montreal. That's going to be a hell of a series. The Habs actually won that series. They were 2-1-1 in the regular season.
How live are the Habs and the Sens in the East? Because I think the Sens, I guarantee you, once these series are set, we are going to see whatever the Ottawa series number posted. And if you want Ottawa, I would suggest you get it in as soon as it's on, because I think there's a lot of steam behind the Sens. Their underlying numbers, the way they played in the last couple months, the fact that they're finally getting some goaltending, which really seemed to be the missing link. Now, huge. They're going to play a really good team, whether it's Carolina most likely or Buffalo. And, they won't be favored in those series. But there's a path, especially with it being as wide open as it has. I mean, Carolina and Tampa have experience. Everyone else seems basically new to the party.
I can see a scenario if Brady Tkachuk turns on the Jets. If he gets going here, and becomes like angry Brady Tkachuk again, because he hasn't really been this season. He's a point of game guy, but he hasn't really been like that snarly Brady Tkachuk we're used to. If he turns that on game 83 and they get the same level of goaltending they've gotten down the stretch, I could see them beating Carolina. I might even take them. Buffalo, you don't know what you're going to get. The Carolina's crux is their goaltending. More than anything. I think there's a little bit of lack of physicality and whatnot. I think they're a really good regular season team, but playoff, they're missing some elements there. And then I don't buy the goaltending. And I haven't for a while. Buffalo, you don't know what you're going to get because they're riding such a crazy high this season that, that one's a little more trickier for me. But like, I think there's a pathway for Ottawa to get to the second round. There's a pathway for the Habs because, they played Tampa pretty decently. That's going to be a hell of a series. Like that's probably going the distance. Edmonton, still, I don't know. I'm still not sure where they're going to end up. And who they might play. Like that's who
they're going to play? They're going to play the freaking LA Kings.
Yeah.
Again. I can't believe we're here with 2 games left in the season saying, Oh my God, Edmonton and LA could play again. But it just almost feels like no matter what happens, these two teams will play. And just quickly on the Kings, like, listen, obviously we wanted our team here in Winnipeg to be in it. If they weren't going to make it, I am happy that it is LA, in that a guy like Kopitar with the Hall of Fame career that he has, it would have been pretty sad to see him finish up playing like the Canucks are cracking in game 82 in a nothing game and saying see you later. And they'll have that opportunity. I mean, I don't think they have much chance, certainly if they play Colorado in that first round. But with the Pacific being the way it's been all year, I mean, I kind of think all bets are off, which brings us to this Utah game tonight. Jets and Utah. Like, Utah, it just seemed like for the longest time they were locked into the wild card one. All of a sudden now with the Ducks and the Kings, they got to make sure they take care of their business so they stay in that spot going through the Pacific, as opposed to getting bumped back to the Avalanche in the Central Division, the toughest neighborhood in the NHL.
Yeah, LA's the hottest team in the league right now. Like 5 in a row. Anton Forsberg's been ridiculous for them in this stretch. The offense is rolling because now they put, like, since the coaching change, you got Kopitar in the middle of Panarin and Kempe. Which is what everybody assumed after they acquired Panarin. So that's rolling. Byfield had a couple goals last night, and you're starting to see a little bit more from his game improving over the last few weeks. Like they're going to be a pesky team, and I mean, look, if they play Colorado, good luck, whoever it is. But if they play any of the other Pacific team, they got a chance. Just with the way the whole season has gone. Like, if they play Edmonton, it's going to be a little different. There's no Phil Deneau. They're not deep at the center position. You're going to have to basically put Kopitar against McDavid. And then it's Byfield's line that's going to have to take over from there. That's going to be tricky, I think, for them. But if they play Anaheim, if they play Vegas, I mean, either team, again, any team, they've got a chance in that Pacific. And I'm with you. It's nice to see Kopi going out in the playoffs at some point. First ballot Hall of Famer without question. But this has led to a lot of intrigue down the stretch here. And look, would it shock me if the Kings win, the Ducks lose, and Utah loses to the Jets, and then it ends up being Edmonton, LA, 2-3, no shock. Anaheim would then be in the first wild card to play Colorado, which would be interesting. And then Utah plays Vegas in round one. That could transpire as well.
The first wild card will play Vegas. The second wild card will play Colorado.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Excuse me. Sorry, I meant the other. Like, in terms of teams, like that would be something if that ends up happening that way. So, either way, it's a photo finish to see how some of these series end up, and that adds to a little bit of intrigue league wide anyway, which the league likes.
Hey, we know a couple of the series right off. How do you handicap this Dallas-Minnesota heavyweight showdown that we've been basically getting ready for about 3 or 4 months? Yeah,
right. And I think that series starts on Saturday. I believe we don't know all the games yet, but I think they start Saturday. That's a tough one. Like I know they just played yesterday against Toronto. They were down 3-0, tied it up, down 5-3, tied, and then won the game 6-5. It could be tougher against Minnesota to do, but I like Dallas. Like, I like Dallas before Heiskanen went out and Hintz was a little banged up. I had Dallas being right up there with Colorado for like cup favorites. Depending on how the playoffs look with how their lineup looks. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they make a lot of noise again, going into this one. I probably lean Dallas's way overall, though, in this one. But I mean, this is another one, full making of a 7-game series and just shot for shot bloodbath.
Yeah, an absolute war. Heiskanen's out till the end of the regular season. They hope he'll be ready for game 1. What is the word on Rupee Hintz? He hasn't played since the Olympics.
Yeah, they don't know.
They said it was an illness at the start. Then it was, I don't know, a lower body injury, upper body injury.
Yeah, and so we're again, not exactly sure what his timeline is at all. I didn't see him last night, so I don't even know if he's with the team at the moment. Seguin was with the team. We know his season's done, but he's been traveling with the team. I'd imagine Hintz is too, but I didn't see him last night. I don't know. I don't know. Like that's a big loss for, either of those guys, Heiskanen or Hintz, but that's a huge loss for them with his capabilities playing two-way. That could be a pretty significant loss for that club. But I think their depth overall, at least on the offensive side, I like that over Minnesota. And again, look, Minnie's got Kaprizov. They've got Boldy, who's going to be he's just coming into his own now. But I think the overall makeup might lean Dallas's way. But look, would I be shocked if the Wild go to round 2? Absolutely not. This can go either way. This is a 7-game series all day. And it's almost like flip a coin.
Yeah, it is. And the odds will tell you that too. I'm seeing over at Coolbet, it's Dallas minus 116, Minnesota minus 104. Yeah. And that's basically a pick 'em and like the slightest of advantage because Dallas would have game 7. But right. Take your pick. Listen, can't wait to get the playoffs going. Look forward to catching up with you at some point over the next few weeks. Get packing that travel bag and get ready to rack up those air miles, buddy. Thanks for doing this as always.
Yep. Busy 2 months. Here we go.
Thanks, Dave. Dave Pagnotta.
Anyway.
At the Fourth Period and thefourthperiod.com. All right, we're going to hear from Mark Scheifele on the big milestone last night and talk about it, tonight's game, and a look ahead into the offseason with Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. He joins us as WST continues. Princess Auto is a proud sponsor of Winnipeg Sports Talk in a lot of ways. Synonymous with Winnipeg, headquartered here in the Peg, founded here in Winnipeg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So while we wait for the Bombers to kick off, get ready for spring. Those projects on your list with great deals throughout the month waiting for you at your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West in the city, out in Brandon. And you can always shop online 24 hours a day at princessauto.com. Spring is just around the corner, and our friends at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's power sports superstar, are ready to get this snow out of here. But before we do that, great end-of-season deals on sleds and snowmobiles that you can check out. But as we get excited for the snow to leave, great preseason deals on motorcycles of all brands, the best in ATVs and side-by-sides, not to mention golf carts for the summer up ahead as well. And it doesn't stop there. Amazing RV options for you to take advantage of the summer, and so many options when it comes to boats as well, in addition to outboard motors from Suzuki and Mercury. The best deals in town. That's how they've been in business as Manitoba's power sports superstore for 80 years. Pop out and see him in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231, and shop online today at their website at chudspowersports.com. April and spring are here, and Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are kicking it off strong with a power event. Right now, you can save big on the batteries that you actually need this season. Lawn tractor batteries starting at just $37.50. RV and deep cycle batteries from $69.50, and heavy duty power like Group 27 and 78 DT starting at $89.50. Need serious cranking power? Check out their 13-inch stud post battery, $94.50 while supplies last. All in stock and all priced to move. Visit Manitoba Battery on the north side on Logan Avenue, on the south side on Dovercourt Drive, and get powered up for spring at Manitoba Battery, powering what matters. Check them out online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, we're going to get into the Jets coming up with Mike McIntyre. Folks, Truck Month is on now at GMC. If you want something reliable, tough, and ready for whatever the schedule throws at you, that's the 2026 Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab in a nutshell. And it can be yours for 0% financing for 72 months with a factory 2-inch lift, off-road suspension, and a 5.3-liter V8. This is one ready for anything truck. Don't miss out. Get to your local GMC dealer and take advantage of Truck Month before it ends. Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. Come on down. What's going on?
Hey, Huss, good to be here. I know it's a day of mourning, I guess, in Jets land. Flags are flying at half-mast. Fans are upset. Mother Nature kind of really rubbed it in this morning, didn't she? It's like, oh,
I missed that snow today. I had no idea.
Yeah, she's like, whiteout? I'll show you a whiteout. Fortunately, it's all melted, but although there's potentially more on the way later this week. But yeah, kind of maybe a day we sort of felt was coming, but the Jets, I don't want to say they pulled the wool over our eyes, because I don't think there was anything bogus about what they had done over these last few weeks. They certainly made it maybe more exciting than it deserved to be, given the big hole or crater that they had dug themselves earlier this year. So credit to the Jets for kind of taking it all the way down to, I guess, game 79. But my goodness, or game 80, I guess it was last night. But yeah, it seems like it's
79.
Yeah. I mean, in reality, the result last night actually didn't matter. Had they won, it still wouldn't have mattered. We'd still be talking about them. Once the LA Kings won their game earlier in the night, that was it.
Mike, to be honest, I mean, as I said, I think obviously, I mean, I'm hanging around, I'm in the building, in the seats. I mean, there was like that finality was Saturday night, I think, for everyone. I mean, that was a game that they had to have. They didn't get any help on the scoreboard going into the game, and then they just got absolutely pumped by Philly. I mean, to me, Saturday night was sort of the funeral. I'll be honest, last night could not have gone better for the Winnipeg Jets. Once you come to peace with, okay, we're not making the playoffs, what is moving forward? The San Jose Sharks won, the Florida Panthers won, and the St. Louis Blues won.
Yeah.
So all of these teams that the Jets have been passing over the course of the last little bit either caught up, and to use a WWE term on WrestleMania week, if they can finish the job over these next two games,
right,
they won't have damaged their pick too much. I mean, they were probably never going to get into the bottom five. They were sitting around that 6th spot, but close to the 7 through 10 teams, and kind of got up to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you play the young guys, give them some experience. Winning does not matter these next couple of games. I would suggest that if they can stay where they are at the 7th position, along with what the team showed and the way they continue to work and didn't quit, it's actually a pretty good result of the final 29 games in a lot of areas. But the bottom line is right now, the only thing that can really help in this final is some experience for these young players. That's happening. And a little bit of lottery luck, but at least you're starting in a much more advantageous position in the 7 hole, which is where the Jets would be as of right now.
Yeah, they certainly are. And, you look at some of the mock drafts and whatnot, you'll see some variance on the order that they go in, but it's almost like there's a consensus top 7. And so I think you really want to be in that. You'd like to be in that top 7 if you can, for sure. And so that's where the Jets find themselves today. And I mean, they lose these, if they can lose these last 2 games, that's the worst they'd be in. Again, barring somebody above them winning the lottery and bumping them down. But it also gives them better odds of moving up as well. Perhaps to that number 1 spot. And yeah, there was a time, Huss, like even prior to these 2 games, where it's like, are the Jets going to now be picking in the teens? And that was certainly looking like a possibility, right? And so you're right. I mean, if they weren't going to make the playoffs, this is the next best option. And to really hammer home that point, who would you rather be right now? The Jets, where they are, or the Nashville Predators, who they also had a nice late run, and all it did, Huss, is cost them draft positioning. And I've seen some of their fan base now just absolutely aghast, saying they also hung on to some UFAs. They did move some guys, but some depth guys. They didn't move anybody substantial at the trade deadline. And there's a lot of angst in Nashville. Like, basically, what was that all about? Like, what did we accomplish? So, yeah, I mean, the Jets are in a bit better spot, even though they're in a bit worse spot than Nashville, statistically speaking. But, yeah, I mean, I asked Scott Arniel on Saturday night, Huss, like, if the emotional and mental toll of just playing so many must-win games had finally caught up to his team. And I get it. He's not in the, he's sort of borrowing from Rick Bowness, the whole no excuses, just solutions. And so he didn't want to make an excuse, but I don't know. That looked to me on Saturday like a team that just ran out of gas.
Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't there exactly. That was an all-timer too. I still would love to know what secrets he held that he didn't want to share with us that he was going to tell the team. It was a bit of a bizarre word salad post-game.
Well, listen, I fully maintain that he wanted to go full bones. I mean, that is the only thing that would have come out of his mouth. And I mean, let's face it, we do have history that this group didn't respond particularly well to when that happened the last time, and they had to be an entire summer of making amends and everything like that. So, for a guy that I think hopes and expects to be back next year, figured that biting his tongue was probably a better course of action. Just we'll move on from this in a minute, but I was just talking to Dave Pagnotta, and I don't know if you caught this, but how's this for a juicy scenario? So let's say things finish around where they are, and the Jets are in the 7th hole. And they're able to catch some lightning in a bottle and move to number 1 or number 2, which bumps the Leafs from 5 to 6. And then Boston gets the Leafs' first-round selection at 6th overall.
Yeah, I mean, like, Toronto looked like they were on the verge of disaster last night when they had a 3-0 lead. And then Dallas ties it, and then Toronto goes back up by 2 again. It's like, what are you guys doing? Now, it worked out in that they lost, and if they don't go do something stupid, I think tomorrow is when they finish or is it tomorrow or tonight? Tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
As long as they don't go do something stupid and win, they'll keep that 5 spot. I think they could even move to 4, but then they have to hope for sure that a team like you said, Huss, doesn't do that and bump them. And if they're at the 5 spot, like, they don't have any margin for error. So yeah, that would be, imagine it's a team, what would really be sort of serendipity? Imagine it's the Florida Panthers.
No. Let's not imagine it's the Florida Panthers. That would be the worst.
It would, and if you're Toronto, given the history with you and the Panthers, like, and if they're the team that steals that pick from you, my goodness. Yeah, that would be a tough one. So what I think the actual draft lottery is in early May, right, Huss?
Cinco de Mayo. Get your margaritas ready for a big party that night.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're not going to have to wait too long to sort of see where the chips or the lottery balls fall here. But, yeah, I mean, look, if you're the Jets, clearly they weren't tanking deliberately. And, to much of the fans' dismay, they were playing hard, kind of almost to the bitter end. Like I said, these last 2 games outscored 13-3. I mean, they've clearly been the second best team on the ice. And I just think all of this has caught up to them. Obviously, they've got a lot of guys banged up. And I don't know, Huss, what was your take on the fact that Scott Arniel revealed yesterday that they were rolling guys out who, what was the quantification that he said that maybe aren't even 50 or 60%? And, like, come on. Like, if that's true, add that to the list of postseason questions that are going to need to be asked. Like, why would they do that when they had call-ups, they had options available? Why would you roll out? And in the case of like a Vlad Nemestikov, a guy that's kind of been invisible anyways, I get, Iafallo, Pionk, they're playing up your lineup. I guess you decide that them at 50% is better than, but I don't know. I mean
that's the only logical explanation. They said, despite how banged up these guys are, and at whatever percent that they want to put on them, they still think that gives them a better chance to win than bringing in some inexperienced young guys or bringing up guys from the Moose on an emergency basis. I mean, there were other players they could have done it. I mean, again, like, I don't know how much I buy all of that. I mean, at this point, everyone's kind of playing with some bumps and bruises and all of that. And I mean, who knows? Maybe with locker cleanout day, we'll find out that there were some guys that were really dealing with stuff and hanging on. But I think, listen, with the way the team was built this year, and we could debate the merits of it, which I think could probably take us a long time, but they were committed to these players that were a big part of last year's season that won the President's Trophy. They got themselves into that mess. I think they were sort of giving themselves the chance to get out of it. And if they were going to go down, which they eventually did, they were going to go down with the guys that, were there. And I mean, what did it do? Maybe it prolonged things a little bit. Maybe it cost some younger guys a little bit more experience in positions of some injured players. I mean, it's just part of the long list of the questions that need to be asked as to how a team with this much talent, with the expectations that they had, ended up making tee times for the 17th of April.
Yeah, and I mean, it feeds into the narrative, right? That this team sometimes, it's too loyal, and it can't see the forest for the trees. And maybe sometimes they punt on the tough decisions because they're worried on either how it'll play, within the room, the perception of it outside the market. And, again, I hate to always go back to this comparison, but given the shared history between the teams, given the number of Manitobans on the Vegas Golden Knights, and given that they just played them last night, you could not find two different organizations in terms of the way they handle business, right? And I'll use an old analogy that I wrote quite a few years ago, that Vegas handles its team like the mob. They're ruthless. There is no loyalty. They are cutthroat. They'll stick you in the back the second you're deemed to not be of any more value to them. The Jets, by contrast, run their team like a mom and pop kind of operation. Loyalty sometimes to a fault. And, I'd like to think there's maybe a happy medium there. Yes, Vegas has a cup for sure. And Vegas has the ability, obviously, to fill holes that it creates itself by trading all its first-round picks and moving on from guys because they're a destination. And Winnipeg doesn't have that luxury. But, just sometimes it feels like the Jets are loyal to a fault. And, it comes back to bite them. And then the other takeaway, I guess, Haas, if they're determining that playing guys at half ability is better than any internal options, isn't that a pretty damning indictment of your depth, of your prospect pool, of your farm system, of everything? If there's nobody that you feel can come in and give you a better chance. And again, up to a couple days ago, this is a team that still fancied itself as right in the thick of the race. And yet they rolled out injured guys, supposedly, guys that were quite injured, that could only give 50 to 60% over any other option. And it's puzzling, to say the least. And then, Huss, you watched last night, there wasn't a lot of takeaways or positives last night. I thought the play of Nikita Chibrikov was one real solid. And you watch Chibrikov come in and you're like, why didn't they go to this early? They don't have this. They need more of this. A guy like a shift disturber, a guy who gets under the opponent's skin, draws a penalty with some physicality. And it's not unlike Cole Koepke being healthy scratched earlier in the year. Just some of the decisions seem to defy logic. And then when you see the player, you're like, this is what they've been missing. Why didn't they go to this earlier?
Yeah, well, I mean, just on Chibrikov, I mean, he was here at the start of the year, and I'll be honest, was very quiet. We didn't see a lot of what we saw last night then, and, at a certain point, when you get that opportunity, you got to make the most of it, and hopefully, he'll do better in this time and, potentially next year when, by the way, he's on a one-way deal. Yeah. And it's going to be getting paid NHL money.
I think, sorry, just to jump in quick, Huss, I think the problem with Chibrikov, I think he put on too much muscle last summer. It slowed him down. And he talked about all the muscle he put on and the training. Like, he was not the same player in camp at the start of the year. And from everything I've heard kind of from his time with the Moose, he's been getting better as the season has progressed. And I think now he probably learned some lessons, right, about training that he's going to take into this summer now. But he looked a lot more like the guy that can be a viable option than the one at the start of the year.
I will say this. I mean, considering kind of the way he plays and what he gets out of opponents when he's out there, I can understand wanting to add some muscle if you're going to be a regular in the NHL. But, it's got to work. But I want to go back to something you said before because, I mean, I do maintain and believe myself that perception outside of the market with players and agents is something that is incredibly important. And listen, from day one of getting the franchise, this organization from top to bottom has tried to put on a first-class operation for the players.
Yep.
What the players want, the players get. They're fed. They're flying first class. They're in the best hotels. Now, part of that is obviously in the CBA, but they do go above and beyond for guys. I mean, you saw what they were doing with Luke Schenn last year when they traded him. Yeah, no problem. Take a day off. Go back to Nashville. It doesn't happen in a lot of places. And they'll never be the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, there's too many things going against them. So I think they do actually have to operate in a different way. I mean, like the moves that Vegas would make if Winnipeg tried to do those, I think there would be a lot of negative effects that they can't make up the way the Golden Knights can.
Right.
But I will say this, the focus on that, I think at some point goes a little too far. And I think we saw it this year in particular. And we can talk about, whether it was Luke Schenn. I mean, Pearson had some good spurts, but again, you're bringing in guys, Nyquist as well, for that matter.
Yeah.
And I talked to Ken about this, and he's like, well, what do people around the league think that if you sign a guy and he comes there as a free agent and, has a rough 2 months and then he's not in the lineup, how will that go around? Well, my answer to that is, guess what? It's pro sports. And if you're coming in and you're not getting the job done, there's always someone that's ready to take your job. And it shouldn't be viewed as a negative that if guys aren't performing, someone else is going in. I do understand that they probably have to work harder to get players to consider coming there, and they might be worried about that. But there is a point where you have to just accept what is happening. And as much as maybe you never planned to do it or didn't want to do that, make those hard decisions. And I think the hard decisions were eventually made just way too late this year. And there was not enough time to come back from maybe hanging on too long in a few of those spots.
Well, the danger, and that you make a great point, Huss, bang on, and the danger in swinging the pendulum too far the other way is the message you ultimately end up sending to players is this is a country club with little to no consequences. And then the trickle down that you get with some of your young prospects is that opportunity doesn't come knocking the way maybe it should. And it's why we've seen, some frustrated young prospects in this system about what they perceive as maybe a lack of opportunities. And, Brad Lambert at one point was, reportedly open to a move because he felt opportunity wasn't coming. Again, I'm not completely absolving the players still have to go down and show that they're worthy of promotion. And, I think among the things that needs to be examined by the Jets in what should be a sweeping, all-encompassing offseason is the performance of its development side, specifically with the AHL team. Why does offense go to die on the farm? And they've got some skilled, creative offensive players that collectively are not putting up numbers at that level. Is that a system thing? Is it a coaching thing? I mean, what's the reason for it? And is it stifling the development of some young players? And a guy like Lambert, who suddenly looks like he's sort of been freed a little bit at this level. It's not supposed to work that way. You're supposed to be a little more free to wheel and deal at the AHL, and then you maybe button your game down a bit, but it's almost working in reverse here. So a lot of hard questions for sure. And yeah, I mean, loyalty is great. And, I think you look at our own lives, right? You want to be known as a person who's loyal, who doesn't just turn your back on someone. But at the same time, it's also something that can be taken advantage of. If it's almost becomes like if you're too loyal and you're unwilling to make some tough decisions. Like you said, some of those decisions ultimately came probably a bit too late. But I have to think, if nothing else, there's a lot of lessons that coaches, management, and players themselves can learn from this season. And if they're not learning lessons out of this season, my goodness, then it's really time to look at even bigger changes.
Mike McIntyre, the Free Press, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Mike, I want to get to Scheifele in a minute and a couple of the other things that we're kind of looking at in these final two games. I mean, obviously, they're going to go into Utah tonight. I imagine it'll be a very similar lineup. Eric Comrie, I'm sure, will get the start. What will we see on Thursday? Thursday night, fan appreciation night, final home game of the season. I'm sure, gun to the head or truth serum into Chevy or whoever, they don't care about winning this game. I mean, I'm sure that they are, like most fans are, and hoping to have the best possible spot in the draft.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing the San Jose Sharks, who will be likely in the exact same situation unless they get a point in their next game.
Right.
And the Jets lose tonight. They would be 3 up, and there's no way the Jets could actually catch them and overcome. Will it be pretty much the same lineup? Might we see a couple more guys from the Moose get into that one? I mean, what are your thoughts on how game 82 is going to look at home?
Yeah, I think we will see a bit of a cavalry called up. Now, it's complicated, I guess, a little bit, Huss, and I don't want to speak for the organization. I don't know how much value right now they are putting in what the Moose are trying to do, which for folks who maybe haven't been paying attention, the Moose have 3 games left this week, and they're all big games in the sense that right now they're in 4th place, and finishing 4th would mean having to play the 5th place team in a best of 3 play-in, where all the games would be held in the home rink of the 4th seeded team. So right now that would be here. And your reward for winning that series would be getting the number 1 seed in your division, which happens to be Grand Rapids, which happens to be pretty much the best team in the entire American Hockey League. Oh, and a team that's going to get some guys sent down from the Red Wings who just imploded down the stretch. Grand Rapids is probably going to get even better. The Jets, though, are within striking distance of the Moose are within striking distance of 3rd place. And if they could crawl into that 3 slot, they bypass the play-in round. They would also bypass having to meet Grand Rapids in essentially the first round if they get through. So there's a lot at stake. And, obviously Yager and Chibrikov are now here. Lambert's here. If you're the Jets, are you worrying about almost sabotaging the Moose last couple games here just to get a guy an NHL game or two? And again, I don't know the answer to that. If development is the name of the game, I could see arguments from both sides, right? You want your young guys to play as many playoff games as possible. And ideally, you'd love to put them in the best position to have a longer playoff run. So, I'm curious where that stands. Remo may know this, Huss. I think the Moose, are they playing Wednesday
Yeah.
Is it Wednesday, Friday, Saturday? Wednesday, Friday, Sunday?
Yeah, it's Wednesday in Chicago against the Wolves, who are in second place in the division. And then they go Friday, Saturday against the Iowa Wild, who are the worst team in the division. They're not going to the playoffs. And in addition, like, I don't know if you've seen what the Wild are rolling out tonight at home against the Ducks.
Yeah.
But I would imagine half the team.
It is the Iowa Wild, yeah.
Half the team, is literally playing as the NHL team tonight. Now, those games are Friday, Saturday. So
you could get players to Iowa. They could play Thursday and be in Iowa. Although they're also playing tomorrow, are they playing 4 days in a row?
Well, and here's the other thing. The Wild are going to the playoffs, like the Minnesota Wild, not the Iowa Wild. So a bunch of those guys will be Black Aces. So I'm not sure they return. So, I mean, listen, if it does come down to it and they have a chance to win and make it into that spot, they'll have a pretty good chance to do it. The key thing for the Moose is getting that win tomorrow. And then, so they're 2 back of Texas right now. If they win the game against Chicago, they would both be 35-29. The Moose would have one more overtime loss, and the Stars would have one more shootout loss.
But I believe the Moose own the tiebreaker with regulation wins. So
with regulation wins?
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, we'll have to see. I don't know if we can click on...
I think the Moose control their fate, I believe, in that if they win their last 3, I believe they would finish 3rd if they win out on the road this week.
Reem, see who the Texas Stars play in their last 2 games if you can. I can't click on it through here.
Because part of me almost wondered today, and I guess it's not too late, this could still happen. I almost wondered if some additional Jets are going to be shut down tonight. Now, again, Ville Heinola was the only healthy scratch last night. So if they were to shut some other guys down tonight, they would need the cavalry like tonight. Chicago to Salt Lake City is not a difficult flight per se. They could do that. You know, part of me was almost expecting a tweet this afternoon from the Jets saying, like, the following players have been recalled from the Moose, and see them play tonight. But again, there's a big game tomorrow, like you said, in Chicago for the Moose. So do they let them play that game? And then recall them on Thursday? It's an intriguing situation, to be sure.
Well, it is. And just on that, thank you to Reem. The Stars play Rockford Ice Hogs, who are also eliminated in their final 2 games. So I think that the real key thing is going to be that game tomorrow night. Whether they can go in and beat Chicago, who's 12 games above 500. I mean, good spot waiting to host. And that would be the team that they would end up playing if they're able to pass Texas. So,
like, you could even see Huss, again, if the Jets wanted to help the Moose, you could see like Chibrikov and Yager return to the Moose tomorrow because they're up on emergency recall, right? You could return them. Now, again, are they gonna play 3 days in a row, and then you're recalling them for Thursday, and they're playing 4 in a row, and then you're sending them back to the Moose Friday, and they're playing 5 in a row? Like, no. But there's got to be some interesting conversations happening, I imagine, with the Jets brass right now, and that balancing act between getting guys, whether it's a Colby Barlow or a Dom DiVincentis, get those, or a Tyrell Bauer, who I think was in yellow at yesterday's Moosescape per Dave Minuk, who he's been battling a bit of an injury. But, getting those guys a game versus allowing them to remain in place to help the cause of the team to hopefully ensure a longer spring playoff run. It's an interesting conundrum.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, listen, I think that Bauer would have already been up if he hadn't been hurt. I mean, we heard what Chevy had to say at his availability after the deadline, and it just hadn't happened. He had a crazy fight, about 4 weeks ago. Missed some time after that, came back for a couple games, then wasn't in. So, we'll sort of see how that all plays out. Just finishing up from last night, moving on, cannot overlook Gabriel Velarde's 30th goal, the season that he's had, and of course, Mark Scheifele. I mean, 101 points.
Yeah.
And I believe Dustin Nielsen told me this. I haven't seen it elsewhere, but it sounds right. Scheifele, the oldest player ever to hit the 100-point mark for the first time.
Wow.
A career year for him. He had never had a 90-point season, and yet here he is at this age producing like he never has before. It's bittersweet because obviously it comes in a real disappointing season for the team overall, but he's going to finish 5-6 in the league in scoring overall. Yeah. Pretty phenomenal season for 55.
It really is. And like you say, Huss, in some ways it feels like it's wasted, like that you got that.
Absolutely.
You got that much out of him and you weren't able to turn it into, and I think we talked a week or so ago, like about the lack of depth scoring on this team. And, I thought about it again last night as Scheifele hit the 100-point mark, had his 35th goal. Kyle Connor's at 38, so that's 73 between them, and then Gabe Vilardi hit 30. That's 103 goals from what was your top line last night. Those are with Iafallo back out, Vilardi's back up there. 103 goals. Huss, that's almost 50% of Winnipeg's entire offense. Those three players almost have as many goals as the other, 25 players that have been in the lineup this year combined. And again, that feels like a waste. You got outstanding seasons from Scheifele, Connor, Vilardi offensively. Teams would die to have, that kind of production from their top three skaters. And yet the Jets, going into tonight, Huss, I know they got within a point. They're 7 points out of a playoff spot. Like, it's possible they finish the way LA's playing and with LA's schedule. Remember that 11-point deficit they talked about erasing? It might be back to 11 points by Thursday night if the Jets lose out and
That's
the Kings
fine.
win.
No one cares. To be honest with you, at a certain point, you're either in or you're not in. And now that they're not in, there's a very clear benefit to not winning these games.
Oh, for sure.
And listen, there's all the experience, but we're going to get into, the daily visit to tankathon.com for the old draft lottery sim will be in effect. But it'll be interesting to see how that final game looks because I think there is the potential for more guys. Just on that note, you mentioned Jets played yesterday and today. Moose play tomorrow. Jets play Thursday. Moose play Friday and Saturday. You think there's ever been a pro hockey player that actually played professional games in 6 consecutive nights?
I'm guessing no. However, I know this for a fact, Huss. There is a player, maybe more than one, that's played 2 pro hockey games in one day. Because I remember there was a team that called a guy up from its AHL affiliate who had played a matinee, and then he dressed that night for the big... And so he played 2 games in a day, which that's even crazier than 6 in a row or whatever. So yeah, it's I feel like that was one of the California teams that did that a few seasons ago. But it's a tough sked for sure, and we'll see how they
Who's
handle
a real
it.
Iron Man? Who can
One
make
thing
it
I know
happen?
is this, Huss. The Jets ran into a couple buzzsaws the last 2 games in the Flyers and Vegas, who had plenty to play for. They're getting another one tonight.
Oh, yeah.
The Utah Mammoth have all the incentive in the world to win this game because, as I mentioned, the LA Kings are right on their heels. And if you're Utah, I don't think you want to choose to face the Colorado Avalanche and get into the central bracket.
No way.
Which would mean even if you could somehow survive Colorado, you then have to get Dallas or Minnie. You would much rather be in the Pacific bracket, which is where they are right now, but only with a 1-point buffer. And the Kings have 2 marshmallow games left on their schedule. This almost feels like a must-win for Utah. And it could get ugly for the Winnipeg Jets, given that what we've seen the last 2 games. Like, they may be hanging on for dear life tonight.
Well, and it's important to note the Ducks as well. The Ducks are playing the Iowa Wild tonight, but they better win because they've got 90 points. The Utah Mammoth have 90 points. The Kings have 89, they could get passed by both teams if they don't win, and then the Ducks would be the team moving over to the Central. So
how about us here? Can I throw one quick maximum chaos scenario? The Edmonton Oilers could still fall to wild card 2. Can you imagine the Oilers and the Avalanche in the first round? If Edmonton loses its final game and then everything else does, like LA wins, Anaheim wins, and Utah wins to get more points than the Oilers, don't look now. Edmonton could fall to WC2.
Hey, if the Oilers can't beat the Canucks at home in game 82, needing it, they don't deserve it. And enjoy a flight to Denver. Mike, great stuff as always. Thanks for doing this. We'll see you down at the rink.
You betcha. Take care.
All right, there's Mike McIntyre. Great stuff from Mike. Connor Rabchak's going to jump in on the program, and we will hear from Mark Scheifele. Details, if you missed it, on our Fight Night contest to go see the fights on Saturday night. We'll have that for you coming up, as well as WST continues on Winnipeg Sports Talk. WST would like to thank our friends at Cleanline Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk throughout the Jet season. When we're doing the Winnipeg Jet lines, we do it with the gang at Cleanline, who are the leaders in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. Your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience. And like the captain, Adam Lowry, has the back of his teammates, Cleanline has yours with 24/7 emergency services. So when you're in a jam at any time of the day, Cleanline has you covered. 204-500-2001 is the number. Write that one down, 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services from the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. You can find out more online at cleanline.ca. Spring is here, and it's time to get down to Winnipeg Sports Superstore Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway to get ready for it. The bike shop is open with incredible selection of bikes, including e-bikes that you'll want to check out. Of course, baseball season is here, all the equipment ready to go for the season, and tons of Toronto Blue Jays merchandise. All the soccer players are getting loaded up with the best selection of boots and unis around, not to mention tons of World Cup merch of Canada and the rest of the world just in time for kickoff. And for all you NFL fans, the draft is coming up in just a couple weeks. The NFL draft hats are all up on the wall, and for the first time in a while, they're actually really nice. So you can pop down there. Get ready for spring, the World Cup, the NFL draft, Blue Jays season, and more at Royal Sports. 50 years plus, family owned and operated at 750 Pembina Highway. It's fight week in Winnipeg, UFC on Saturday, and Boston Pizza is the place to be. Pop into your local Winnipeg and area Boston Pizza now and enter to win a VIP UFC experience to this Saturday's UFC Fight Night at Canada Life Centre. The grand prize includes 2 official UFC Fight Night tickets with premium seating, in-venue hospitality with UFC athlete experiences, and reserved access to the ceremonial weigh-ins. Plus, Friday night, come into Boston Pizza City Place for a UFC fighter meet and greet after the weigh-ins at 7 p.m. There'll be pictures and autographs with the surprise UFC fighter, UFC prizes, and loaded Octagon's pizzas on special. Book your table. Give Crystal a call. City Place, 925-4109. Get ready for Fight Week and UFC Fight Night at Canada Life Centre at Boston Pizza. Much more to come on WST, but first, a big shout out to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's get Connor Rabchak in here. Make sure to check out tonight's post-game. He and Reem did a bang-up job talking about last night's game. And Connor, we have clarity. Not that it wasn't very evident where things were going, certainly after Saturday night's game. But overall, as we talked about, I mean, if you kind of take a step back from, a disappointing night, although exciting to see Braden Yeager play his first game and whatnot, the Jets got some help. Certainly, I mean, listen, I call it team tank. I mean, whatever. They're playing their guys. I mean, they've been trying to win, much like the Leafs were last night. I mean, it's a lot easier from a coach saying, oh, yeah, just don't try to win. It's not really the way professional athletes are wired. But regardless, St. Louis, Florida, San Jose all winning was actually a very nice little silver lining to the official news that the Jets were bounced.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's been a debate in our chat room. I feel like every single day for the past month and a half, team tank versus team playoff push. There's no debate anymore. Like it's a fact that losing these games, losing these games is more beneficial. It's just a fact. And yeah, cheering for the Blues, cheering for the Panthers, these teams that are in and around the Jets in that area. And yeah, good night for the out of town scoreboard last night. You'd love to see that. And that game Thursday, I know we were talking when the Jets and Sharks were fighting, it might be, what if that's kind of like a playoff game? Well, that might be a big game for tankathon seeding as well. And Remis and I were doing the post game last night. And as Remis was talking, I was just running the simulator and I got the Jets at second a few times and then they hit at first. And I was like, all right, quitting on top. That's our tankathon for the day. Yeah, let's roll it. Let's see what we can do. This is what we got to do for the next little bit, right?
How many times does it take for
it took me about 8 times, I'd say, and then
Florida.
Florida. Yeah, could you imagine? Holy moly! But this is it. This is it, folks. Tankathon simulator.
Now, you know what? The one thing I'll say about this is it still has Winnipeg behind Florida because the Panthers have played an extra game.
Right.
The Jets will play that game tonight. Assuming they don't beat Utah, then the Jets will actually be below Florida because they'll have equal amount of games and the Panthers will have the tiebreaker on them. So, it's funny. We'll get to the cool bet lines in a minute because there's some interesting games today. We'll kick around. Maybe we'll put something together for the club. But I wanted to get to Mark Scheifele. Obviously his 100 and 101st points last night was really the big news. And of course, Gabriel Velarde's 30th. Remo, let's hear from Scheif. We kind of saved this from earlier. But this is what Mark had to say after the game on obviously the disappointment of being eliminated, but a career milestone for him achieved last night.
Yeah, it sucks. We were pushing till the end, and it's a tough reality. That's just the game of hockey.
You still personally have to be pretty proud of your season. The first Jets 2.0 to reach 100 points. It's a remarkable performance.
Yeah, I'm very blessed. I play with some amazing players. Very blessed man. Just got to thank God for it all, and I'm proud of myself, and I know there's still more, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Connor, inside, and we talked about this with Mike, it is even, I think for a lot of fans too, even more frustrating that, you got such an amazing year from Mark that I don't think a lot of people thought that, was there at this point in his career, and yet the shortcomings elsewhere in the roster, have this team getting ready for tea times.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing from this season, Huss. And last night was kind of poetic in a way. They get shellacked 6-2, but the Connor Scheifele-Velarde trio has 2 goals. Velarde gets 1 and Scheifele gets 1. And it's that's what we've seen all year long. Team getting blown out, but that line is a couple goals. And yeah, it's an incredible achievement. You got to start there. That I know we don't like acknowledging the Thrashers on all of these lists, but he passes Marian Hossa. So now when we discuss that years into the future, Mark Scheifele will be at the top of that list. A Winnipeg Jet now represents that for the most amount of points in a single season for the 2.0. And this franchise, which is always great to see, 101 points. He can add to that tonight and Thursday. Incredible season. Kyle Connor, 90 points. Gabriel Velarde, 30 goals. You love to see that too because of the injuries. He's played at a 30-goal pace the past number of years, but he's never been healthy enough to actually reach that mark and get 30 goals. So it was great to see him get to 30 goals as well. But is that not scary as well at the same time? Like, you got Mark Scheifele's best offensive season of his entire career at 33 years old. And here you are in game 80, 7 points out of a playoff spot. And in the middle of January, you were 32nd and all of this stuff. Like, Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck are 33 years old. They're not getting any younger. Yes, it's great that Mark Scheifele's playing some of the best offensive hockey of his career at 33 years old.
He's 32. He's 32, by the way. We can't age him.
No, he's 33.
He's 33. Says he's 32 here.
I thought he turned 33 late in the season here. Yeah, March 15th.
93.
33 years old.
Oh, okay. I guess they have 32. That's like when the age when starting the season. Just
so next year he'll turn 34 late in the season, and Connor Hellebuyck is 33 as well. Like, I don't know. It's an incredible achievement, and you can't take that away. But when you look at the entire season, it is a little scary that Mark Scheifele had his best offensive output, and they still missed the playoffs by a considerable margin.
There he is. Hey, there you go. Yeah, let's just do a quick run through these headshots, Reem. It's one of the great things of Hockey DB. If you go to Hockey DB and click on the guy's headshot, it just rotates through his different looks by the year. For the podcast listeners, you're not seeing the evolution of Scheif, but look at that one.
Wow.
This young kid.
Wow.
Anyways, I mean, getting to 100 was phenomenal. All you need to do to figure out where things went wrong for the Jets this year is you look, and I mean, Scheifele, Connor, and Vilardi, all incredibly durable, played in all 80 games. I imagine Gabe particularly, but I would think that all of those guys will try and, lace them up for the next two and get the full 82 in. But you got 35 goals for Scheif, 38 for Connor, 30 for Vilardi. The next goal scorer on the team is Josh Morrissey, a defenseman, with 14. And then the only other players in double digits, Perfetti, 12, Iafallo, 13, Taves and Barron, 11. And then next up, the dearly departed Big Stan.
Right.
With 9 goals. So, I mean, God knows we don't need to get over this again, but it's very clear that they need some more people to come in and be able to score some goals and generate offense outside of the line, because this is probably as top-heavy a team we've seen in a long time.
For sure, Huss. We've talked a lot this season about how they were a one-line team for a majority of the season. A lot of their offense, if not all of their offense, as Ishiboy Bruce points out in chat, he had 100 points because no one else could score. Absolutely. Yeah, like it no one else could really score for a couple of months there in the entire bottom 9. It was secondary scoring, not just the bottom 6 or not just a line here or there. It was really everyone outside of Scheifele, Connor, and Vilardi. We talk a lot about, the lessons learned from this season. What lessons are the organization going to learn going into next year? Secondary scoring and insulating the top line or your top scorers with more offense is going to be at the forefront for sure.
Let's Rima's going to join us, and we want to get to these games tonight, and we can kick a few things around. I do want to thank our friends at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. I was talking to Pitt last night. They're just waiting for the ice to get out of there and get down, and getting ready to welcome guests. We've had a great response, certainly after missing some of the year last year due to the evacuations. Booking well into the summer right now, but if you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing destination where you can be on the water in just a couple of hours from the city of Winnipeg, and as great as the world-class fishing is, the world-class hospitality even better, go to aikenslake.com for more information on booking availability before things fill up for the 2026 fishing season. And I'm looking forward to having Patty on the show tomorrow. We will be getting into the Memorial with our picks on the golf course. Of course, speaking of golf, we're a couple weeks away, I think, from getting the courses open and getting swinging them again. Cannot wait to get back out to Breezy Bend, who've been such great partners of ours at Winnipeg Sports Talk for a number of years. The course is amazing. They've done incredible improvements over the last few years. Clubhouse phenomenal, and the social scene there, unlike anything I've seen. If you're thinking about a long-term home for you and your family at one of Winnipeg's top private courses with a great practice facility, junior and ladies programs as well, Breezy's the spot. You can find out more information on membership today at breezybend.ca or give them a call at 895 7205. Let's get to the lines tonight, boys, because I think there's some opportunities based on teams that need to win, teams that don't want to win, teams that do not care and aren't playing players over tonight. And by the way, we've also got a couple series bets that are already up right now, series prices. Dallas and Minnesota, which is set. Pittsburgh, Philly, which is set. But of course, it's fight night here in Winnipeg on Saturday night. And we hooked up with the Cool Bet guys to send a lucky Cool Better to the Scraps downtown on Saturday. What you're going to want to do is, if you're maybe riding with us, we're going to put something together tonight, betting on the hockey. Just screen cap any bet of $10 or more. For every $10 you'll get that you're wagering, you will get an entry into our giveaway. And if you are looking ahead and betting, and we're going to have Aaron Bronstetter on, we'll make some picks later on this week on the event on Saturday night. Any bets for the fights on Saturday here in Winnipeg, you'll get 2 entries for every $10 wagered. So you can get behind Mike Malott or some of the other Canadians on the card or your favorite picks. All you're going to want to do is just take a screen cap and email it to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. We will take them all in, and on Friday's show, we will be announcing the winner and sending somebody to Fight Night, courtesy of Winnipeg Sports Talk and Cool Bet. Again, that email, contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. All right, guys, like a busy night in the league. And let's just go through these games. Jersey at Boston. Boston needs to win if they want to stay ahead of the Ottawa Senators and be in Wild Card 1. Wild Card 1 will get the Buffalo Sabres. Wild Card 2 will get the Carolina Hurricanes. The Bruins are minus 154 favorites. The Caps and Blue Jackets are eliminated. CBJ minus 147. Washington, who's actually played really well down the stretch, plus 125. You got the Islanders at home at minus 159 to the Hurricanes, who've been resting a number of players as they're locked in as the 1 seed in the East. Carolina's plus 135. The Habs, minus 208 at Philly. Philly's going to be calling guys up, resting a bunch of players. They're locked in. The Habs want home ice advantage over the Tampa Bay Lightning. So certainly I expect the Habs to win that one. We talked about the Minnesota Wild's lineup tonight. All the big boys are sitting down. The Ducks need a win on that side. Now, I don't really trust the Ducks right now, but if you're wondering why the Ducks are minus 135, that's why. Minnesota plus 115. Nothing game between the Avalanche and Flames. Colorado's minus 143. Calgary's plus 121. The Jets in Utah, the Mammoth, minus 192. Winnipeg now plus 162. Utah puck lines minus 1.5 at plus 130. The Blues, and this is good news for Winnipeg when it comes to, the draft hierarchy. Pittsburgh's resting all their guys. They're in St. Louis. The Blues are a minus 208 favorite. And then you've got the Los Angeles Kings, who continue to push forward, trying to get out of Wild Card 2 and potentially into third place in the division. The Kings are in Vancouver for this other game against the Canucks. Kings minus 159, Vancouver plus 135. Reem, what do you think about this slate tonight? I mean, I think there are some angles that we can go if we're putting together a 3 or 4 gamer of teams that certainly want to win and some others, frankly, that don't, including that Jets-Utah game.
Yeah, Utah, for sure, a team that needs to win. I think the Kings are on a bit of a heater. They did play last night, but they're playing against Vancouver, the ultimate tank team. Minnesota, they played last night and rested everyone. You might have to wait and see what they pull out when John Hines meets the media around 5:30 p.m. But hard not to like some of these favorites. Blue Jackets at home. Rick Bowness has had this team playing so well since arriving, almost pushing them towards the playoffs. And, you do like when it's a team that needs to win against a team, that has not much to play for. When you look at Boston and LA for sure, Utah? Do you look to take teams in regulation if they're two big favorites overall, or you look to take teams on the puck line as well, like the Kings, or even Utah?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that Utah puck line, I mean, certainly considering what we saw last night, the fact that the Jets now are out, they're on the second end of back-to-backs. I mean, listen, you hope for good things, especially with the young players, but I'm not expecting a lot from Winnipeg tonight. Connor, what stands out to you on that slate of games tonight as far as what we might want to put together?
Yeah, to me, I'm looking at that Habs-Flyers game. Credit to the Flyers last night. They clinched a playoff spot with a shootout win, and that building was going nuts. The players were celebrating big time. I don't know what their lineup is going to look like tonight, Huss, in terms of resting guys because they're locked into the playoffs. But I do know that there's going to be a massive emotional letdown coming off of, they just clinched the playoffs. And, they got to where they wanted to go. They achieved their goal. And now they may not be resting guys, but they're definitely going to take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit before the playoffs actually begin. They also know their opponent. They know they're starting on the road. Nothing can be taken from these last couple of games for the Philadelphia Flyers. Or maybe this is their final game of the season. But for the Habs, they are playing for home ice against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They are trying to get into that 2 spot in the Atlantic, which is big. We know the Bell Center, the advantages that brings for a team like the Habs. They're a young team. They're not as experienced as the Tampa Bay Lightning when it comes to playoff hockey. They want home ice. This is a big game for them. I know they're a minus 208 favorite, but as Remis was getting at there, looking at them winning in regulation, winning on the puck line, those things do interest me. They're minus 122 to win in regulation and plus 120 on the puck line to win by more than 1 goal. So that does interest me tonight. The Habs was something to play for, and the Flyers maybe a bit of an emotional letdown coming off of clinching a playoff spot yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what do we think about this? Do we like the Islanders at home to the Hurricanes? The Islanders are out, but to me, Pete DeBoer, he's only had 3 games with these guys. They're going to be going out, final game on home ice, playing a Carolina team that's going to be resting a whole bunch of guys. Minus 159, I've got a lot of time for that one. I mean, I think we love the Habs money line, Utah money line. And then there's the Kings and the St. Louis Blues. I mean, Kings in Vancouver, they got to have it. Pittsburgh's shutting down all their guys. St. Louis still seems to be pushing forward. If we go all 5 of those teams together, including the Islanders, we get to plus 785. If we don't want to put the Islanders in, it's still plus 443 for a Habs, Kings, Utah, and Blues ticket.
Pretty good.
Reem,
a lot of heavy favorites there, but
yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's pretty chalky. I mean, it's just the Kings at minus 159. And then the other ones are all basically around minus 200.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a couple puck lines. I tell you what, we'll put this one in for an exclusive or a combo card. And the guys will give us a boost. So that'll probably get up close to 5-1.
Yeah.
But as I said, if you wanted to get a little creative and maybe jump on the Utah puck line, maybe St. Louis, Los Angeles for sure. I mean, there's a couple ways you can play this if you want to get a bigger number. But I'm going to send this one into Jake. Montreal, Utah, LA Kings, and St. Louis. And we'll see what they can cook up for tonight.
Go Blues.
Yeah,
Never going to hear me say that again. Flip it.
No, for sure. For sure. I mean, the same thing with cheering, for the Leafs. The Leafs are done right now. But Connor, I'm trying to manifest this. We were mentioning with Pagnotta and with Mike. All I can think about is the Jets winning the lottery, moving up from 7 or wherever to 1 or 2, and the Leafs going from 5 to 6, and the Boston Bruins getting their pick. There we go.
Look at that.
So
finally.
There you have it. There's my scenario. Just as I was saying it, Winnipeg wins the lottery, and then it's Winnipeg, Vancouver, Chicago, Rangers, Calgary, and the Bruins on the clock because they've got the Leafs pick.
The funniest outcome is what you're describing, where the Leafs actually do the proper tank job and get into the top 5, but then someone leapfrogs them and pushes them out, as opposed to them finishing 6th and then they end up 6th. Like, there's no drama in that. Having them get pushed out would be incredible. And yeah, look at that. Winnipeg, number 1. You're on the clock.
You know what? That's May 5th. That's the
May
biggest
5th,
day of the rest
special
of our
day.
lives coming forward.
Manitoba Miracle 2.0. Here we go.
We put that all together. So again, those are the lines today. Cool bet. Again, just if you're betting tonight with us, or double votes or double ballots for UFC wagers for Saturday, and send them in. Just screen cap it. Contest at winnipegsportstalk.com. Friday, we will announce the winner here on WST. Dallas-Minnesota series has been locked for a while. Dallas minus 116, Minnesota minus 104. Do you have a lean yet, Connor, on this battle that we've known has been coming for basically 4.5 months?
So my lead the whole time, Huss, has been Dallas. Like, I truly believe that, yes, Minnesota's a great team. And again, they're probably the 3rd best team in the West. I just still like Dallas with home ice. I think they're a very complete team. But I'm going on Gavin Spittle's podcast tomorrow, and I'm excited to talk to him because what's the deal with Roope Hintz? What's the deal with Miro Heiskanen? How hurt are these guys? They're not playing right now. They're keeping it very close to the chest in terms of, how far they're leading on, how hurt these guys really are. And I mean, a loss of Roope Hintz, or you don't have Hintz for the first 2 games, or Heiskanen for the first 2 games, that absolutely changes my mind. If Minnesota can steal a game on the road, or even 2, without Dallas's number 1 defenseman and number 1 center. So if those guys are good to go and they're going to be in game 1, I still like Dallas. If those guys are really missing any sort of time, I could see Minnesota take back home ice, and then I actually lean more towards Minnesota, I think.
Yeah, I mean, man, part of me, I think Minnesota is live in the playoffs.
For sure.
I mean, I think that the way that they're built, they could, and I don't even want to say this publicly, but I will. I think they could potentially win the cup.
Yeah.
They've also got a very, very tough road to go. I might actually bet Minnesota. It's sort of the emotional hedge. I either win the bet, or I have the joy of knowing that the Wild went out in the first round again, despite all the moves that they were made. Now, Remis, before you click on it, have you seen what the odds are in the Philly-Pittsburgh series as yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't looked at any of the odds.
Have you, Connor?
I haven't either. No.
Okay, let's play Guess the Lines right now. Pittsburgh, home ice against Philly. What do you think the line would be? If you were making it, what would be, Pittsburgh's got home ice. I'll tell you, they are the favorite. How close do you think this one will be?
I'll say
Primo, you go first.
Pittsburgh minus 115, minus 120. I think it's kind of close.
I'll go Pittsburgh minus 135. A little bit longer than 115. 135, 140.
Pittsburgh minus 152.
Wow, that's
wow.
Flyers plus 125. The Wikis and all those other knuckleheads like Kabilis who were wearing Flyer jerseys on Saturday can get ready for that. I actually think there's a lot of value there. I just know that Pittsburgh, now that they're there, having Crosby and Malkin and Carlson and Letang and all the experience that those guys have, I think sort of pushes them forward. But I'm sort of with you. I was really surprised that number was as high as it was. Now, listen, this is a reset of a poll question earlier, but why not question of the day for not Autocorp is at Waverly and McGillivray. I need to put this to the two of you guys. Canadian teams. We got Edmonton, we got Montreal, we've got Ottawa. We know Montreal's playing Tampa. We don't know whether Ottawa's playing Buffalo or Carolina. And there's a whole bunch of possibilities that could still happen in the Pacific Division. Who is Canada's best hope to make noise and go the furthest in the playoffs? Connor, I'll start with you.
You asked me this question, I'm taking the best player in the world. I'm taking the Edmonton Oilers. I know their goaltending is the sketchiest it's probably ever been, and that is saying something given they've had Stuart Skinner for the last 4 or 5 years. But still, I saw Draisaitl skating. Hyman is going to be playing. I was listening to EST this morning. Dusty was saying, he'd be shocked if Hyman isn't in for game one. Draisaitl maybe middle of the first round. They could rest both of those guys for the first round and beat any of these teams in the Pacific. It's after that when they play Vegas in the second round or whichever way they go through the bracket where maybe you'll need those guys back. But once it gets down to the Western Conference Final, McDavid's going to be playing 27, 28 minutes a night with Draisaitl on his wing. And we've just seen it the last two playoff runs where they make magic. They went into the series last year against Dallas, took care of them in 6 games, went on to the Stanley Cup final. Now, the Stanley Cup final, obviously, that's almost projecting it too far ahead. But the reason I take Edmonton as well is looking at Montreal's path. It's a difficult one. I don't even know if they're better than Tampa Bay in the first round. And then if they beat Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Carolina, all the way down, that's a very tough path for Montreal. They might be the best team, but I'm taking the team with the best player in the world and the easiest path. Give me Edmonton.
Reba, what about you?
I was going to say Edmonton as well. I know their goaltending situation isn't great, but is it any better than Ottawa's? I mean, is it any worse than Ottawa's?
True.
Is it worse than Montreal?
Right now it is. Although Ingram's actually played well. The Oilers have scored 1 goal in their last 2 games.
He's been good. I was going to take them because of McDavid, because of the path, as Connor mentioned. Tough for me to want to pick Montreal up against Tampa, for a young team. Yeah. It's a tough spot. If Ottawa goes against Carolina, I wouldn't like that as well. If they go against Buffalo, then I think that's a good matchup.
Check this out.
Yeah.
The Cup odds. We've talked about how the analytics have been so good for Ottawa, and they've done such a great job of keeping shots down and creating chances, and now they're getting saves. Ottawa has the 3rd shortest odds in the East to win the conference.
Really?
This is a cool bet right now. Tampa Bay plus 180. Carolina plus 225. The next team is the Ottawa Senators at 7-1. Buffalo's plus 750. Pittsburgh's 15-1. Montreal 16-1. And then you got the Flyers at 20 and the Bruins at 28. Cup odds right now as we get ready to embark on the playoffs. Colorado plus 325, Tampa 4-1. So those are your favorites in the 2 respective conferences. The Hurricanes are 5-1. So, they're right there with Tampa. And then there's a big gap. And you go to Dallas at 11-1, Vegas at 12, the Oilers at 14, and then the Ottawa Senators and the Minnesota Wild at 16. Ottawa has a shorter number than the Buffalo Sabres do. Sabres are at 19-1. And then another big gap, and you get to Utah. The Habs number, and listen, I'm not a Habs guy, but I'm not an idiot. We've seen Montreal magic happen in the playoffs before. The Habs at 40-1 seems like a crazy undervaluing of a team that is, right there, basically with Buffalo and Tampa at the top of that division.
Well, Huss, it just tells you what the odds makers think of Tampa, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Montreal is absolutely there. Yeah, but come playoff time, you got Point, Cirelli, Kucherov, Hagel, Hedman, John Cooper behind the bench. That's a team that you trust a lot more than the inexperience of the Montreal Canadiens, for sure. So that's the biggest thing that stands out to me. I think it makes me feel better about my Edmonton pick because the bookmakers or whatever, the odds makers, they acknowledge the path is very tough for Montreal. The path is honestly easier for Ottawa as it's reflected in the odds, because if they can get through Carolina, then they get one of Pittsburgh or Philly. And if they beat Carolina, you'd think they beat Pittsburgh or Philly, right? And then all of a sudden you're in the Eastern Conference Finals and boom. And at that point, all bets are off.
There is a chance that if the Bruins don't get their win tonight and Ottawa wins the final one, they actually would jump the Bruins.
Yeah.
And I guess you'd rather play Buffalo than Carolina, but at the same time, if you win the second round, I think you'd certainly rather play Pittsburgh or Philly than Tampa or Montreal. So it is sort of 6 of one, half a dozen to the other. Anyways, all of the odds are up in the Coolbet futures right now. And what I am looking forward to, and I would imagine we'll probably get these maybe tomorrow, or at least as soon as the matchups are set. Not only will we have all of these, but we'll also probably be able to have exact Stanley Cup final matchups. And we should get the guys. I'm sure they're working on this already, but I'd love to know of a number on an all-Canadian final, which is basically Edmonton. Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Edmonton winning the West, which is 6-1. And then either the Sens 7-1 or Habs 16-1 to come out of the East. But as I said before on EST, but I'll say this right now, for the longest time, I have not been one of these guys that's like, it drove me nuts when we go, oh, you got to get behind the Canadian team. I'm like, what are you talking about? We hate most of the other Canadian teams.
Right.
Like, I want the Jets. I want the Jets to be the team that brings the cup back to Canada. That being said, with everything that's gone on over the past year, compounded by losing the Olympic gold medal, I've had enough of it. I am supporting the Oilers. I'm supporting the Senators, and I'm even supporting the Canadians. And if any of those teams are in the Cup final, I will be pulling for them. And if the Minnesota Wild possibly win that first round, it'll then be anybody but Minnesota. After that as well. NBA play-in is set.
Raptors avoided it.
And the Hornets, the Raptors did. And you know what? My guy, Carolina Mike. Remember Carolina Mike who did that banger for the Panthers? He just dropped a new version of If I Had $150,000 for the Hornets in the playoffs. Get to your Instagram feed and check that out immediately. But yeah, the Raps are done. And the Raptors get the Cavs,
who they've beat. They're 3-0 against the Cavs this year. So they avoided the Knicks too. They've been really bad against the Knicks.
They got
great against the Cavs
every time they played the Knicks.
So it's a good draw for the Raptors, who are in that 4-5 spot. The NBA still goes 1 through 8, but they have the play-in, of course, from 7 through 10.
Raptors plus 341 in the series. Big underdog.
Wow.
Cleveland minus 476. So I might get in on that. But again, if you missed it, or if you just popped in late and you're betting at Coolbet, just take a screen cap. Any of your bets, email them to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. You'll get a ballot for every $10 wagered for the tickets for fight night on Saturday. And if you have any bets for the UFC already, send those in as well, and you'll get double the votes. Maybe we'll see an octagon head winning the tickets. I can't wait. I'm going to the event. It should be a lot of fun. Nice. And I'm looking forward to it. We're going to get Bronstetter on, Reem? And he can kind of break down the card for us and let us know who we should be supporting, cheering for, and who we might want to sprinkle on as well.
Yeah, he's confirmed will join us on Thursday.
Nice.
To tee up the card. He's now the Sportsnet MMA insider as the rights moved from TSN to Sportsnet for UFC content. So he moved with them. So looking forward.
Bronstetter's the man. He's been a homie of ours for well over 10 years. I met him for the first time, actually. He was Michael Landsberg's handler at the Super Bowl. And Landsberg wouldn't go. And Bronstetter would, and he'd just be on Radio Row, like wrangling guys into his place to do these interviews with Landsberg. Absolute beauty. But he's done an amazing job getting everything set up for the UFC, and he's basically taken that over for Canada since he was with the TSN, and now obviously with the rights over at Sportsnet. That is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. So we will get to some fight night stuff. But of course, we got a game tonight and then one more on Thursday. Connor, before we go just on Thursday's game, I asked Mike, what do you expect to see lineup-wise in that final game for the Winnipeg Jets, considering what's at stake? And will it depend on what happens in San Jose's next game? If San Jose wins their next game, they'd be 3 up on the Jets if the Jets don't win tonight.
Yeah, so last game of the season when it doesn't matter, even last year for the Jets, it didn't matter. But remember, they played everyone, and that was kind of like, oh my goodness, like this is risky. They had number 1 locked up. But But you'll see the guys that are on the verge of 82 games, I think, stay in, because that's something that NHL players care about. You talked about Gabe Vilardi, a guy like him who's been hurt many years. Obviously, he's going to want to play. He wants that 82 game, that on his resume that he played a full season. I don't know. Do we see a UFC main event fight night with Tyrell Bauer? I mean, I know you were talking earlier that he's injured. Is he healthy enough? All of that stuff. That's a big question mark. I am expecting maybe a couple more call-ups, but not Florida Panthers level of like, who is this guy that's just playing in the top 6? I don't think it's going to be a full lineup thing. I think you'll see a few tweaks.
Wilmer Skoog,
in the top 6. They won the game. They beat the Rangers. Crazy. But I mean, that's good for the Jets, of course. But I don't think you see a full. I don't think we're going to see the Manitoba Moose on Thursday. I don't. I think we're going to see maybe a preseason type lineup where there's a lot of veterans with a few extra younger guys in the lineup, and maybe a Tyrell Bauer sighting if he's healthy.
I'm actually looking forward to Thursday night's game, just like to be there. I mean, listen, I love the game.
Fan Appreciation
This is going to be the last one. They have some really cool stuff going on for Fan Appreciation Night, and everyone's going to win something. It's going to be free fountain drinks, but we're going to get a full rundown. Balls are going to jump, or Kyle Ballharry from the team is going to join us to let us know what is cooking for fans for Fan Appreciation Night. And I see Schnitzy saying the Moose just released a playoff ticket pricing. That is not bad. $28 for P1, P5's $18. Not bad. Yeah, well, and in the next couple days, I mean, we'll be having playoff games at Canada Life Center. Just the question is whether the Moose can get into that 2-3 series or whether it'll be the best of 3 against Milwaukee starting here at home. Nevertheless, Connor, you'll have some more a little bit later on tonight. And I got back maybe a little later than normal with that 9 p.m. start last night. Did take in the post game afterwards. It was excellent. And only a couple more of those this year.
I know, only 2 more. It's going to be Liz and I on the post game tonight, so tune in. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about Yager and Chibrikov and the players that aren't usually a part of this team. We'll talk about the game, of course, and maybe some bigger picture topics. But I'm also going to be heading to Illegal Curve's Boston Pizza watch party tonight, Huss. I don't know. I haven't talked to you and Remo what your guys' plan is for that, but I'll be down there at Boston Pizza Taylor taking in Jets Mammoth. And I was texting Ezzy. He's hoping to just see the Zammoth, the new Zamboni that they dropped over there in Utah.
The Zammoth is a fraud. It is not a Zamboni.
Wait, what?
This is crazy.
This is shocking.
It is just a transport vehicle. So they rolled it out the other game, and it looks cool. I mean, it is amazing. And I'm thinking, like, okay, this is the next level for in-house entertainment. So it drives the people around. They do the thing, and then the Zamboni comes out and clears the rink.
No,
it's basically fake news.
It's just ruined my day.
The
I was excited for tonight's game to see the Zammoth, and now it's just...
We will see it, but you will not see it cleaning any ice. You'll just see it taking fans around it. So 8 o'clock start tonight, and tomorrow on the program. What's up tomorrow? Is Marat coming on tomorrow, Reem?
We're trying to finalize tomorrow.
Just figuring out the rotation.
We're figuring out the rotation.
Boys.
I actually got to text Brandon because he didn't get back to me. So,
gotcha.
I think it might be Ken and Marat Thursday. Let me just text Brandon again.
Okay. Well, anyways, TBD. TBD. We'll get into tonight's game with the Jets gang and set up Fan Appreciation. Kyle Ballharry's going to jump on. And much more coming up. And then, of course, we'll get closer to fight week. And then very interesting to see when the Jets... Do you have any idea when the Jets are going to do their locker cleanout day?
No, I don't. I've been waiting for this, but I really don't, because they end Thursday. Is it quick turnaround Friday? Like, let's get this thing over with?
It might be because UFC
Saturday
is on
UFC.
Saturday.
Yeah, and I can't see them waiting till like Sunday, Monday. So maybe it's... Friday is like the players we hear from. Saturday is nothing. And then Sunday is like coach and GM kind of thing. I don't know. But I don't know. That's me speculating.
They did put out the media schedule, and I thought maybe it would include Friday, because Friday morning is it's like the official weigh-ins at I think that's at a hotel, and then in the evening it's public weigh-ins that you open to the public. So maybe they would do something in the morning.
I think UFC's taking over the building basically the second the puck, the final whistle or buzzer blows on the Thursday night game.
Yeah.
Now, is there
still
room to
have
do it? I guess they
offices.
could do it at the Iceplex if they really wanted to.
They could. That is an option too. Yeah.
Yeah, they could do that.
Anyways, we'll see. If it's Friday, it'll be, whenever it is, we'll have all of it for you on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I guess just a little difficult to plan right now, based until we see it. Good stuff by everyone in the chat. Love the passion, as always. Enjoy the scoreboard watching in the game tonight. We will be back tomorrow, 1:00 p.m. We'll wrap up the final road game of the season. Look ahead to game number 82 and the rest of the action as the playoff picture becomes more clear around the National Hockey League. Thanks to Dave Pagnotta, Mike McIntyre, Connor, Remis, all of you joining us live on YouTube, making us a part of your day. Of course, all you podcast listeners. And of course, thanks to all of you sponsors. Don't forget, if you are making any bets for the hockey or for UFC, make sure to screen cap those. Email them to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com to be eligible to win the Fight Night contest. We'll give those tickets away on Friday's show. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to the sponsors and all of you. Have a great night. Enjoy the game. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.